Hello everybody and welcome to Race Department's V8 series. My name is Simon Smith and I'm your host today on PSR TV. On cameras will be Jose Estrada, cameraman extraordinaire, and I look forward to a fantastic evening with you all. Courtesy of PSR TV, we worship you. Today we're at Oran Park, famous for its crossover and V8 layout. It's also very, very narrow, very bumpy and very, very tricky indeed. And we've just entered the qualifying session, of which there is 20 minutes for you to do as many laps as you can and try and get round the circuit. I've just been watching everyone for the past hour or so in practice, and everyone's spent pretty much just as much time on the black stuff as they have done in the gravel. So it's going to be an interesting one indeed for them. Okay, the Mr. Cameraman Extraordinaire is just going to show you the current standings at the moment. What you see on screen is going to be much more than what I can actually see, but I do know that Mike Seaon and Grief are equal on top with 89 points currently at the moment. And there you can see the rest of the people behind. This is Oran Park and it's pretty much coming up to the third or fourth round of the season, and then we should be clubbing off a rest around the world. But there you can see the top group of drivers, and looking out for those names today, because this is the kind of circuit where you can quite easily make a mistake and go right down the order. Okay, so that's the standings. Should we take a little look at the track, everybody, and let's see just exactly why everyone wants to play kitty litter? I think that would be a rather funky idea indeed. Let's go on board with Gregory de Grief. He's currently sitting in pole position in P1, and here he is across the start-finish line now, and going round turn 1. Loving those curves. If you're a big Marker Brigade fan, you'll know why. Then into the Coca-Cola corner, which is turn 2. Then over under the famous Yokohama Bridge, and then into turn 3. With some more funky pink curves. Gregory de Grief abandons that lap and ruins our broadcast, Mr. de Grief. You're giving me grief, Gregory de Grief. Let's switch on to Ben Pretendike. He's currently sitting in second position, and let's see if we can actually get an on-board lap with somebody. Currently in second, 16 minutes remaining of qualifying. That turn 1 has been catching a lot of people out, because if you don't ride that curve, the speed that these drivers are going round the corner will send you straight off into the gravel. Under the bridge, before you come to the drift corner for turn 3, and it kind of starts off a whole circular round. It's like you're in one of those multi-storey car parks. You just keep spinning round until you get to the level that you want to actually be on. Mind the cars, very narrow round here, over the Yokohama Bridge and straight into the next corner, and as you continue off down to the much more open section of the track. Ben using quite a lot of curb there around the first of the chicanes, and then you've got one quite tricky uphill, slightly off camber corner, and then come to the flip-flop, as it's affectionately named, over the crest. That's really a very challenging blind corner, and in this final corner a lot of people would, because it's almost banked in a way, a lot of people were taking that far too fast and ending up in the pit wall and over the line to start another lap. Ben Pretendike currently in second position, just 39 thousandths of a second behind current pole sitter Gregory de Grief. And this track very narrow, as you can see, and let's hope that none of these, that all of these cars have been on a diet, because if you've not been on a diet and these cars had to fry up for breakfast, they're going to have fat rear ends and you're not going to get too side by side around any of these corners whatsoever. But just to take you a quick look through the order, because we've got 40 minutes left to go, but Gregory de Grief currently on pole position with a 1:06.5 dead. So that's the current pace. Ben Pretendike, who we've just seen, is in second position, with Mike Seaon, who is equal points leader, currently sitting in third. Ben Crooks is currently fourth, just a tenth off the pace. Ryan Callan, of course, league administrator, is currently sitting fifth, quarter of a second off the pace at the moment. Kevin Clark currently sits sixth, and we saw him do very well at Surfers Paradise and be one of only 3 drivers to actually not clout anyone or cut the corners last time out. So of course Surfers Paradise is one of those tracks that you can't help but make mistakes and go off, as Mark A. Warmington has just spun off at the corner of my eye there. Gary Lennon currently sits in 7th position at the moment on the grid with 107.274, and Gary has been affectionately christened and broke the virginity of the pond that sits on the outskirts of turn 6. If you spin there is a pond waiting to catch you out. It's now been affectionately known in the race department community as Gary's Pond, as he was the first one to discover it and actually thought it was a texture and ended up getting stuck in there. So, as Gary has just lost control at the Coca-Cola corner. And these curves around some of these corners are very high, and if you catch them wrong it will just spin you round and spit you out. Hannah Carasola currently sits in 8th with Evo Simonine, and those are the 9 that are within a second of pole at the moment. Rounding off the order, Yari Vinari is 10, Adam Shaw 11, Mark A. Wilmington 12, Martin Bolgen is 13, Dan Higgins 14, Rich Tranter 15, Michael Hutchins 16th, and a little bit closer to the pace this weekend, just 5.5 seconds off. Piotr Bashchuk is 17 with Sylvian Meerlord in 18, who came into the server about half an hour ago and said, "Me no practice." So it serves you right for being 18, 16 second pace. We'll see how many laps he completes. James Johnson is on a hot lap at the moment. He is in 19, and we'll stick with him because he was second in warm-up, and that's far too much curb coming out of the Yokohama Bridge, and my goodness, his rear end will feel like it's been attacked by things that shouldn't have been attacking it by the end of that. And James there will be very sore, no doubt, as he goes over the flip-flop, taking much more gingerly the curb there, braking for the final corner, and that was a clever perfect line out of that. He crosses over the line, and let's see where he ends up, and that's P6, 9/10 of a second off of pole position, but he's got much more to give, and he was practically, as Gregory DeGrief has just improved to 105.886, and James Johnson there off down at turn 2. I've seen that many a time, and Ben Botendijk just doing exactly the same alongside as well. So people they're really struggling around this circuit, and I have a feeling that we're going to see quite a high rate of attrition. The gravel is very, very deep around this circuit as well, and people say you're in it, it doesn't let you go again. It's like you might as well be swimming around in Gary's Pond, actually, to be honest. But swimming around in treacle is probably the best description I could think of that. Ben Crooks has just popped up into 2nd position with a 106.299, and that's just 0.4 of a second off of Gregory DeGrief. So with Mike Simeon in 3rd, having just improved as well. So we have 21 drivers. Only Tony Talvite has yet to put up a time. However, he was quite high up the grid in practice earlier on off screen. He will be looking for a little bit more. I think we should jump back on board again with who's that jumping up the order? That's Kevin Clark moving into 7th and Lee Ross into 8th. But James Johnson currently running 6th position. Let's ride on board with him over the curbs there. He's got a lot of traffic ahead of him. Both Ross and Clark are very much on the pace, but James Johnson is a good half a second at least faster. And there you can see Clark completely missing the apex for that corner, and avoiding those lovely Battenberg curves. And James Johnson they're just feeling a lot more aggressive and able to take much tighter lines over the Yokohama Bridge, and I'm waiting for someone to ram into that barrier. But once again, Johnson there very aggressive coming out of that corner, and he's not afraid to use that curb, but it will bite him back. And look at Kevin Clark. That was a hair-raising moment. Johnson there continues on taking a little bit too much curb there out of the corner, and that'll unsettle the car as he goes over flip-flop and then down into the final corner. And he took this beautifully last time round, and let's see what he does this time as he comes across the line. This has got to be faster than what he done before. It's not mistake-free, and no, it's not. Simon talks rubbish. That was 0.4 of a second slower. So obviously maybe being a bit upset there by Kevin Clark, who done an unforced error just in front of him. Let's see who else is on track and what they are doing. And let's see if we can catch anybody on a run. Gregory de Grief has just gone over the start-finish line. He's our current pole sitter. Let's see what he wants to do. He obviously feels that he needs to push, and he takes a completely different line for turn 1. He doesn't agree. Ooh, but that's... I was going to say he doesn't attack the curb, but he decided to give it a rampant ravage at the Coca-Cola. Then into drift for the next one, turn 3. And gives that one quite a clear berth actually as well. He's got to be careful because Meerlord's just up ahead and he's way off the pace, and this could well, if he doesn't get out of the way nicely, he's going to ruin De Grief's time over the Yokohama Bridge. He goes, and there you can see De Grief's got a completely different line there to what we've just seen James Johnson do. He's not attacking those curves nearly as much. It's almost like Johnson is trying to ramp over everyone so that he can try and gain as much time as he can because he's so ragged, whereas De Grief's got his car much better set up so that he doesn't feel the need to do that. But unfortunately blocked there by Meerlord, who's... Oh! And Meerlord straight off, and that's a crash for De Grief. And, oh dear, Sylvan Meerlord there, who has just moved into 18th position last time by. Too fast. Out of the flip-flop there, onto the curb, onto the grass, into the gravel, and into the barrier. So basically a little bit of everything. And Hannu Carasola was also held up by that because he had to go flat on the brakes. So Talbot's still yet to set a time. And Piacek Chuck is the 20th and slowest driver currently, 7 seconds off the pace. He's normally a little bit quicker than that, so I don't quite know. Maybe he's just having people have those bogey tracks. Let's see what current joint leader Seaon is up to. He's currently sitting 3rd on the grid at the moment with a 1:06.356. We've got just under 7 minutes left for qualifying, and that is what I call a cut, Mike Seaon, by the looks of it. That I think was all 4 wheels on the grass, and no matter how you cut it, that's called off-road racing. Mike crosses the line to start a hot lap. Let's see what he does in his Triple F racing car. Once again, quite eager on the curbs, and unsettles the car there, and that is way wide into Coca-Cola, and that is him straight on his back foot before the lap is even 3 corners old. So Mike Seaon there obviously needing to push very hard. He wants to keep this lead, so does Gregory de Grief, but de Grief's got carbs much more settled underneath him and allows him to avoid all those curbs and therefore avoid all these chances that you take every time you need to take a curb. Oh! And that's Mike Seaon doing some more off-road action. So excellent car control to be able to take him back onto the track again. But Mike Seaon really needing to... well, it's alright to do it in qualifying, but in the race he'll need to calm that down ever so slightly. So man into the 1 minute 5s, and that's Gregory de Grief. He currently sits on pole position with a 1:05.866. Second is Ben Crooks. Third is Mike Seaon. Fourth is Ryan Callan. He's improved just very recently. Fifth is Gary Lennon, and he's just popped there. So obviously trying to avoid the pond and keeping himself going. 6 is Ben Potenzak. He's just coming round to finish a lap incidentally, and let's see where that takes him. He comes over the line. The man who shall not be named but can be named, now that I can pronounce it, does not improve but stays 6. Lee Ross is 7, so he's just improved. James Johnson is just crossing the line now in 8th position, and he improves into 2nd position on the grid. James Johnson takes 2nd, a 1:06.203. So that was a timely effort there by James Johnson with just 4.5 minutes left to go in quali. And that is the gauntlet down. And that now puts 2 cars between de Grief and Seaon. And every car between them is going to count today, because de Grief can get up front and lead this race. Overtaking is going to be very difficult around here, and Seaon is going to have it all to do if he's got Crooks and Johnson to get round. And James Johnson is no slouch behind that wheel. He ain't no couch potato, as someone could have said once, one day, somewhere. But yes, Seaon is got it all to do. Rounding off the order so far, Lee Ross is now 8, Kevin Clark 9, Hannah Carasola is 10, Simmons is 11, Mark E. Wilmington, who said please mention me if I get past lap 1, which we will, providing you do, is 12, Yari Vinar is 13, Adam Shaw 14, Tony Talbot 15, who has now actually gone out and put in a lap, so he must have been snoozing in his cockpit. Dan Higgins is 16th currently at the moment and in the pits. Martin Bolgin is 17. We know Higgins and Bolgin are teammates, so they want to get for Dick Johnson Racing, and they're side by side again and looking like they're in for another inseparable day, just a 10th between the two of them. Rich Tranter is 18th and improving lap on lap actually. He started off about, spoke too soon, he's just doing a spinneroo. He's currently sitting 19, he's now just 4.8 seconds off the pace, and has slipped to 19th actually because Sylvian Mearlord's just improved. Michael Hart-Jones 6 seconds down, 20th. Piacek Blazchuk in the pits in 21st. He's obviously giving it up for the day. So, just 2.5 minutes left, so there's plenty of time for one more final run before you decide. Grid order. Mike Seaon is out trying to improve. In 4th position. Let's see what he's up to. He's got to watch because Cannon, Lennon and Butenzak especially are right behind, just a 10th. A 2/10 separating 3rd to 6th. So very close action here at Oran Park. Seaon crosses over the line to start a lap. And let's see what he does as he goes for turn 1. Once again they're avoiding the curves. That's exactly how De Grief took turn 1. This is much better from Seaon. They're very good on turn 2, able to take all of the curb on the exit there and not lose time. Now for drift, turn 3. Very tight again, and that looking very tidy indeed from Mike Seaon so far. Now as we continue round what I can only describe as the multi-storey car park section of the track, up over Yokohama Bridge. Once again, very deceiving. You get to the bridge and you're braking and turning and you can't actually see the corner. And this was where he got it wrong before. Ooh, very close to the curb there. He's really trying to wring out every last inch of this circuit. And as most men will tell you, and women as well, every inch counts. Over the flip-flop and then down into the final corner. And that is looking a little offline there by Seaon, but it was looking much, much more tamed compared to what it was before. Over the line he goes. That did not work for Mr. Seaon. Some 1.2 seconds off the pace, so God knows where he lost all of that. It must have been over those curbs. James Johnson has felt the need to not go out. Neither has Gregory De Grief, so it is down to Ben Crooks, Mike Seaon, Ryan Callan as your top 3 that are able to challenge for pole position. We're down to the last 30 seconds of qualifying before the checkered flag comes out. Let's join on board with Ben Crooks, currently sitting in 3rd position, and that is him getting it very wrong over the flip-flop. But he's got enough time to come around the final corner and get one more key lap in. As the clock starts into the final 10 seconds, he's over the line, so he's able to get one more in. Mike Seaon will not, however. Neither will Ryan Callan, and Callan has taken a rather bizarre line into turn 2. But Ben Crooks is just coming out of turn 2, and he's taken that very tight indeed, and he's been quite good on the curb exits as well. Into drift in 3rd position, and that looks a little bit slow on the exit there and a little bit steady, so I think he's lost time there. Mike Seaon and Ryan Callan have both called it a day, so it is just Ben Crooks who is able. Oh, Ben Crooks has called it a day as well. So they obviously know that nothing is going to change. Ben Butenzak and Haranu Carasola are still out on runs. Carasola is just coming out of the final corner, currently sitting in 10th. Can he improve? No, he cannot. 10th position he will stay. Butenzak will stay in 7th, and I think that is your qualifying lot for now. Only a short lap, just as well if you're going around in circles, and that is your grid. Let me take you for a quick run through it. Gregory De Grief took pole position, the only man to get below the 1 minute 6s with a 1 minute 5.886. James Johnson was alongside him. Potentially, we've got a lot of grid changements with penalties and stuff to sort out, but he was second. Ben Crooks is third. Mike Seaon is 4. Ryan Callan will start 5, with Gary Lennon 6. Butenzike, Lee Rooks, Kevin Clark and Hanu Carasola round out your top 10. Ivo Simmons was 11th, Mark Wilmington 12, Yari Venari 13, Adam Shaw 14, Tony Tauvite 15, Dan Higgins 16, Martin Bolgen 17, Sylvian Meerlord 18. That's not bad for half-hour practice. Rich Tranter 19, Michael Hart-Jones 20, with Pietrek Blazchuk in 21st. Gregory Grief complaining of graphic problems, so maybe that was why he didn't come out for the final couple of corners. Mark A. Wilmington saying that he's surprised with 12, so maybe you will get around lap 1 after all. And now we'll be just going forward to a quick, short warm-up session. The Oran Park circuit will be a 39-lap race. The race is time-scaled, so it's double, so that you do have to deal with tyre wear. Damage is at 80%, so if you do stick it into the Yokohama Bridge or go and drown yourself in the pond, you will be buggered. And too much allowed in terms of driver aids either. Though auto shifting's allowed, so that might even allow me to have a little go at that, because I'm rather rubbish with a manual gearbox. Fingers and thumbs, and there's too much to do, and my poor little blonde brain can't cope. So just a quick 10-minute warm-up session. This will be where everyone will want to test things out, see how everything is going. Ben just saying, Ben Crooks, just saying that he was actually a 10th up on what he was going to do, and he was going to beat James Johnson, but however he caught someone else spinning, and that was that. So, in case you're joining us, because it's turning 9 o'clock and the race is scheduled to go off in about 10 minutes time, you are watching PSR TV. My name is Simon Smith, and this is Race Department V8 Series. Nice, fantastic championship. We've got 21 riders for you today, and a hell of a track to try and get round. It's your guess as to how many people will finish. I don't think we'll have too many. I think this will be by far the highest attrition race of the season. I will give my shout out. The curb of the season is wherever there's a pink and yellow curb around here. And if you've ever checked out any of my Backmarker Brigade liveries, you will know why. Pop onto racedepartment.com, although not now because the site has decided to drown itself in Gary's Pond. However, there are people behind the scenes working to get that sorted pretty quickly. But once it's up and running again, remember to post your comments in the forums. We normally do have a chat box running as well. And there's also TeamSpeak, where you can talk driver tactics and so on and so forth. Personal plug for myself, if you can pop over to cockpitfm.net. We heavily feature Race Department in our Crashcast FM podcast with myself and co-host and co-driver for my teams, Maurice Sondak. Plug finished. And any more plugs, and I might as well open not an MFI, but a bath store and see what happens. So these are the guys on warm-up. They will be testing out race fuel, obviously. Conditions today are nice and sunny for them in terms of the digital world. There'll be plenty of tumble and action so far. Currently Tony Tauvite is top with a 107.066, and this is one of those tracks that is going to really change over the course of the race, because fuel load around these types of corners, they're all banked and there's all kinds of crests and blind corners. You're really going to have a car that's almost alive, so that each corner is different as you go. So, just coming up to the 5 minutes of the warm-up mark to go. So grab yourself tea, coffee, Vicky's, drink. Go on, I'll let you. Just the one though. And if you're found to have drunk over the limit, unfortunately you're not allowed to go around the Oran Park circuit because you need to be damn sober to even get round turn 2. Just a reminder also that Saturday we'll finally see the Formula Pro Rail Series broadcast on PSR TV. There was a radio show for the first one. Abu Dhabi was cancelled due to Simbin being rather naughties. In fact, it was the naughtiest piece of naughty I've ever seen in my naughty life. And they decided to close down their servers for maintenance on a Saturday. What were they thinking? Oh, bit slap for them. So that Abu Dhabi race will be rescheduled for later on in the year. But, however, we will be at Bahrain for that race. No doubt all kinds of fun and games and actions all up and down the field. Coverage from that will start from just around 7 o'clock GMT time on Saturday evening with me again. So you'll almost know me intimately, although I bet most of you wished you hadn't by then. However, if ever there was a sim racing slutty commentator, that would be me. Just 4 minutes left of this warm up. Tony Talbot currently on top with Ivo Simmons second. Hanu Carasola is third with Martin Bulgin 4, Yari Venari 5, Silvio Nearlord 6, and actually running almost as close on race fuel as he is in qualifying, so good stuff there. Michael Hart-Jones 7, Baz check in 8, Mike Simeon spun on his only lap so far and is currently booked in 9. And Dan Higgins just yoinks that position away from him, so Mike Simeon will slip down to B10. As I said, 39 laps, there's plenty of opportunity to make a problem for yourself. Just while we wait for that, does anyone have any predictions on what will be happening in Formula 1 this weekend, I wonder? We've also got Michael Schumacher popping back from dead. I have to say personally, I do hope that he's not as good as what he was before, and at least the Brawn is not, or as a Mercedes in disguise, is not as good as what it was before. Otherwise, I think I shall just sleep through the race. My prediction is that the car that wins won't be a USF1. I think we all saw that coming, although it was a bit of a shame, but never mind. And I do apologise if you start to hear police sirens in a minute. There is an errant horse running round underneath my flat. So if you hear some horses, how can someone lose a horse? It's not as if you could say, oh, it's just fallen down the back of my sofa. What was someone doing? Anyway, enough of that babble. But if you do hear police sirens, it's not being taken away because I'm just rubbish. There is a horse running about underneath my flat. Ben Vitenzak has just popped up into top position, so obviously showing his race performance fuel in a Jack Daniels racing car. He's just narrowly beaten Tony Talbot, who obviously seems to I was just wondering that, Michael, actually, that second horse that's been running around. I have a story, actually. How long have we got? Okay. Gather round, children. I have a story. Where I live, there is a museum. And I was walking home from one day from work early. I managed to get off work early. Result. And this woman stopped me and said, "Excuse me, you look like a strapping young lad." And I thought, oh God, I'm going to be sexually attacked. And she said, I've got a coat, but it's died. And I've tried to take it out its pen, but it's got wedged in the door. Can you help? And me being me, just kind of, okay. And had to drag this dead goat across the field. And you know what the disgusting part of it is? I see her almost every day and she doesn't even acknowledge me. How upset am I? So enough of story time, Simon. We are coming to the end of warm-up. Everyone has entered the grid and just checked their qualifying times. No one has admitted that they've cut the track gutted. Poor English, spanky monkey. And we are ready for the go. Plenty of penalties to start off the race, so quite a bit of funky fun. So the grid that was actually in qualifying will probably not be how it was in qualifying. As Ben Crooks finally posts a competitive time in the warm-up, just ahead of Vitendijk. Seaon was third, Tavertet 4, with Ross, Vinari, Simmons, Carasola, Higgins and Warmington rounding out the top 10 for the warm-up. And of course none of it particularly bears any resemblance to the race, but at least we know what...
Attention, all non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
And that's the famous race commentator. Enough of my awful babbling. Good luck everybody for Orion Park V8 Series Odyssey of Race Department, broadcast to you live on PSR TV. And first one in the gravel gets to bathe in Harry Pond. So De Grief and Johnson, everyone has actually pretty much kept their positions the same. So maybe they just added time penalties. The lights are on. Gregory on the right, Johnson on the left. We are racing! Park. And De Grief has got away much better than Johnson there. And De Grief is going to take it right down into turn one. Johnson is second. Free breast behind with Crooks, Lennon and Seaon. Gary Lennon off to a fantastic start and takes third position away from Callan. And someone is way off into the gravel down there, and that is all kinds of problems. Where is De Grief gone? Gregory De Grief has disappeared. Ben Crooks is now leaving. There is carnage down into turn one. I knew that this would happen, and Gregory De Grief is in the gravel. Our equal championship leader is off. James Johnson has dropped to 20th position, but Gregory De Grief, a damaged car, 21st position in the gravel, and that is going to absolutely wedge a hammer through his championship chances if he doesn't get out of that gravel and start making up time now. Can he do it? Ben Crooks currently leads from Mike Seaon. Ryan Callan third, Vitendijk 4, Gary Lennon is 5, Carasola, Clark, Simmons, Higgins, Shaw, Dan Higgins up to 9th from about 17th position on the grid. And Gregory De Grief is running again, but he's 41 seconds off the pace with a car that looks like it's just been mauled. Sylvian Mearlord is in the gravel as well, although we kind of expected that one. And Michael Hart-Jones is spinning as well, doing his usual. But one lap down, Ben Crooks leads from Mike Seaon second. Ryan Callan is third, just holding up Ben Vitendijk in 4. And Vitendijk there looking rather racy on Ryan Callan, and is sizing him up to third position as they go underneath the Yokohama Bridge. Shout out to Mark A. Wilmington, you did make lap 1, my friend. Congratulations. But Ben Vitendijk, 4th position, all over the back of Ryan Callan for 3rd. Seaon is keeping a watching brief on Ben Crooks, and that'll be a battle for later on. But Vitendijk there straight away looking like he wants to pass Ryan Callan for the final podium slot, and these lot are going to try and run away as best as they can. Gary Lennon got a stunning start off the line, jumped into 3rd position, and then he lost it down into turn 2 while trying to avoid, I think, James Johnson, who'd gone off the track. Carasola is now up to 6, Clark 7, Simmons 8, Higgins 9, Short 10, Warmington 11, Vinari is 12, Bulgin 13. James Johnson is already up to 14th position, and he had dropped to second last, so he has already overtaken 7 drivers in 1.5 laps. Stunning driving there by James Johnson, as Tony Taubete has just gone off the track somewhere. Or has he? No, sorry, it's lag on my part. But let's jump up to the front. Ben Crooks currently leads from Mike Seaon in second. There's Ryan Callan in third position, and he's still got Ben Potenzike all over the back of him for fourth, and that one's going to be an interesting one, I fear. Gary Lennon is 5, Carasola 6, Clark 7, Simmons 8. Dan Higgins has got Adam Shaw all over him for 9 and 10. And Adam Shaw, they're trying to move up the inside. This is for P9 and P10, but Higgins just about defends there. But Adam Shaw has got much more grip coming out of the corners and seems to just fly back onto him. Dan Higgins there completely all over the curbs on a flip-flop, and that's going to allow Shaw right up onto the rear of him, and Shaw taking a look through on the final corner. Brave man if he could do it there, and he's straight through into 9th position, side by side across the start finish line. Adam Shaw covers the line, takes the position before turn 1. Excellent opportunistic move there by Adam Shaw, who takes 9th position away from Dan Higgins, and that's the highest I think I've seen them two all race, as Ben Crooks leads from Seaon, Callan, Potenzike, Lennon, Carasola, Clark, Simmons, Shaw, Higgins, Warmington, who has got Yari Venari all over him. Martin Bolgin has got James Johnson closing him down. Taubite's 15, Tranter 16, Lee Ross is 17, and Blashchek is 18, Hart Jones 19, De Grief is 20th and has already passed Sylvian Meerlord. So all kinds of things there. Battle for 16 and 15th position. Lee Ross and Rich Tranter side by side over the Yokohama Bridge. That's for 15 and 16, and Lee Ross has just overtaken Rich Tranter there, and Tranter they're doing all kinds of off-road shenanigans, which is not good at all. So that's that battle sorted out for the time being. Adam Shaw has just grazed the wall in 9th position. James Johnson has already overtaken Martin Bolgin as well for 13th and 14th position. So James Johnson there doing some stunning driving. It's just that he's overtaking cars left, right and centre, and we can't keep up with him. So lap 4 already of 39. This lap is a short one, no matter how tricky it is, and it won't be very long before they catch Sylvian Meerlord to lap him, because he took a skinny dip in the gravel. Gregory De Grief is now into 19th. He's passed Michael Hart-Jones. A few more drives like that and he'll be back up into the points and desperately trying to salvage something of what was an absolutely nightmarish turn 1, where Gregory De Grief, our pole sitter, got a cracking start and then threw it into the gravel. Had a skinny zip around. James Johnson has just taken Yari Venari for 12 and 13 while I was talking about that. And James Johnson, who is next, got Mark A. Wilmington, who's got Dan Higgins and Adam Shaw all over him. Let's join this. This is the battle for 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. It's the best battle on track by far. Dan Higgins is holding up Adam Shaw. Shaw's made a mistake and Higgins has got back past again. Mark A. Wilmington is more together than the pair of them and is just keeping a watching brief in 11. James Johnson has just passed Yari Venari for 12 and 13, and Johnson is by far the fastest of the lot. So here we are. There's James Johnson, and I've seen him size up many a driver already today. And Mark A. Wilmington there just giving Adam Shaw a little bit of a love nudge, and that has completely left him open for James Johnson to take an opportunistic move through. Mark A. Wilmington there going wide, obviously knowing the game was up there. James Johnson dives through into 11th position. Next on his list then is Adam Shaw, who is currently running 10, and Shaw there practically mounting the curve. That's not the best way to go about it, and Johnson's got a much more together car. Shaw, they're all wobbling around like some kind of large ladies' wobbly bits, I suppose. And a little bit of tap in there by James Johnson, and that's completely left him with his back foot. Mark A. Wilmington dives through. Yari Venari fancies a little bit of it as well. Johnson trying to come back through, and that is going to be trouble if they try and go side by side into turn 1. Is he going to do brave? Yes, he is. He dives past Wilmington. That's a class move. A little bit of rear end action there from Johnson on Shaw, and Yari Venari there pushing Mark A. Wilmington to the side. Venari and Wilmington side by side underneath the Yokohama Bridge. Now diving for drift shaft. Turn 3. Wilmington and Venari 12 and 13 side by side. Bashing there. They want marking their territory. They might as well cock their leg and just spray all over each other. But Venari's got it. as they come back over the bridge that they were under side by side. Venari just about has it. And look at Taubate. Taubate's going to try and have a go through as well. Oh, 4-wheel drift there from Taubate, who's obviously trying to take advantage of what's going on. But Venari's just passed Wilmington. Taubate fancies the lot of them, and that is that for the time being. James Johnson, though, released up onto Michael Hart-Jones, has just disconnected, I think, from the race. It didn't look like he crashed. It looked like a pure disconnection. So that's our first retirement there, Michael Hart-Jones. He was out from 20th out of the 21, so he was not running fast. So improvement there for Michael Hart-Jones. James Johnson now. Let's see who he's sizing up. He's currently P11, and that is him looking already, taking a little piggy eye down on Adam Shaw, pulling out right hand side. Shaw there running wide, obviously thinking he's going to go for it anyway because he's done it before. Alongside on the Yokohama Bridge, Johnson has the inside line, but Shaw's not giving up. Side by side, love nudges all round, and Johnson defending Shaw, so Shaw can't do any switcheroos whatsoever, and Johnson takes 10th position. Next up is Dan Higgins, and look at how Johnson there just kind of takes the curb on the corner. Higgins there staying quite clear of the curbs. Then we're on through the flip-flop into the final sector. Johnson there getting caught out by Higgins' braking because they're so different, I suppose, and Johnson straight alongside, much more power on the exit, pulls through into 9th position down a straight, pulls straight across there. That was a little bit naughty because that was dragging across Higgins. Higgins trying to go around the outside, and Higgins goes off, and that is straight into the barrier. Bye-bye bumper for Dan Higgins, and he'll do well to get himself out of that gravel trap. Dan Higgins retires with suspension failure on lap 8. A valiant effort by Dan Higgins, but there was no way that he could try and get round the outside of that one. Dan Higgins out of the race, lap 8. James Johnson now down to 11th. He went off as well, and Jari Venari and Adam Shaw have both gone through. Taubate has just passed Mark A. Wilmington for 13. It is all go in the midfield. But let's just recap very quickly. Let me just check that they're not all just about to pounce on each other and play switch position. James Johnson straight onto the back of Jari Venari. Let's stick with this actually. 10th position Venari, 11th position James Johnson. The fear of it becoming a James Johnson broadcast. James Johnson, they're going through, and Ryan Callan is off the track. Ryan Callan, 6th position, has gone off the track. Running in 3rd position, he gets 2 wheels on the grass coming out of turn 1, and from there he's kind of managed to keep it vaguely out of the gravel, but he's dropped down to 6th position, and that is a disaster for Ryan Callan, who had 3rd place on the podium. He had a half a second to a second gap over Ben Buitendijk, who now takes 3rd position. So classic driving there by Buitendijk, who just kept mounting the pressure, and obviously Callan's gone. So Ben Buitendijk sadly finds himself in 3rd, and he is reeling in now Mike Seaon for 2nd. So this could be heating up for a battle for 1st, 2nd and 3rd, who are all on the same main straight. And Ben Buitendijk was the fastest man lap time around by 0.2 of a second. Ben Crooks was eaten into by a 10th from Sim, so they're all pushed each other together. So in a couple of laps, that's going to be a cracker. Gary Lennon in 4th position has just been on the grass coming out of turn 1. Obviously, as these cars change their dynamics when the fuel goes down and the tyres get worn, Lennon there feeling the problems and the pressure. Let's hope he doesn't end up in the pond. Hannu Carasola running well in 5th. Callan is now down to 6th. Kevin Clark, once again, a quiet but effective race, is running 7th. He's still got Ivo Simmons for very much pleasant company in 8th position currently at the moment. Adam Shaw is currently running 9 with James Johnson 10. Jari Venari has been passed by Johnson and is now down to 11 and has Tony Taubate all over the back of him for 12. Lee Ross is now into 13. Martin Bolgin, is now into 14. Wilmington has dropped to 15, so there must have been some kind of mistake there because he's lost about 15 seconds. Gregory de Grief now into 16th position. Sans front bumper, but still pulling out what is looking like a rather fantastic recovery drive as we enter lap 11. Rich Tranter is the last unlapped driver in 17th position. 18th is Sylvian Mirlodge, 20th is Piacek Blazchuk, with just Dan Higgins and Michael Hart-Jones as our 2 retirements so far on this race. This lap around, Ben Crooks has opened up the gap by 0.4 of a second from Mike Seaon, who has lost a chunk of time at the 0.8 of a second lap on Buitendijk. And let's take a quick nose at this, just because it's looking like it's going to heat up anytime soon. This is the battle for second and third, and Buitendijk, fastest man currently on track. James Johnson is also attacking Adam Shaw. I'll keep an eye on that as well. In fact, let's switch actually to 9th and 10th position, as this is James Johnson and Adam Shaw, and Shaw cutting off James Johnson coming out of the Yokohama Bridge, and four-wheel drift there, Adam Shaw. James Johnson has been doing some fantastic overtaking moves, but Adam Shaw is proving, well, he's stuck his teeth in. He says, no, you're not going through. Just behind them, Vinari and Talbot are doing a side-by-side too. All action going off here in the V8 series of race department here at Oran Park. And Johnson there straight onto the inside line. He's done the switch back, gone for the outside on the way in, come in so that he's good on the way out, straight into the slipstream. He'll do well to try and scare off Adam Shaw into turn 1. What will Shaw do? Shaw keeps the line. Johnson don't fancy it this time around, but fancies a look into turn 2. Ooh, a little brush in the rear, but Johnson avoids the curbs, straight onto Shaw again, just behind these two, Talbot and Vinari, going at it like hammer and tongs. And who's that? That's James Johnson off the track. James Johnson there off the track. What did he do? Let me have a Scooby-Doo look. Oh, he just too much. Yeah, he just throttled down too much. A mini slide, and that's lost him to Vinari and Talbot, who now move into 10 and 11 position. James Johnson making more work for himself than he could ever have wanted. As Ben Crooks has had a poor lap last time by, and now the gap between him and Mike Seaon is just 1.2 seconds. Buitendijk just 0.8 of a second further behind in 3rd position, and that was why they was all lapping Rich Tranter. It just depends on the part of the circuit you get them at. This is what goes on as James Johnson alongside Talbot for 11 and 12 position. James Johnson takes 11th position from Tony Talbot, and that was down the home straight. And is he going to try around the outside of Vinari? No, he's not. But Vinari there, too busy looking at Adam Shaw, not looking at what James Johnson has done, as Mark A. Wilmington has crashed out of the race. Mark A. Wilmington has just crashed out from 16th position. That is a shame. Suspension failure for him. I assume it was a crash out anyway, because it's flagged up suspension. That was lap 12 though. So that was 12 more than what you thought you would do, Mike. So, Phil, I think you deserve at least one beer. However, back to the action at hand, and there is plenty of it. You're currently watching the battle for 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th position, with 13th place Lee Ross now having joined in, as if you wanted any more cars going on. There are battles going on slightly further up front, as there you can see Mark A. Wilmington's bumper laying on the track, so that's where he met his demise in the final corner by the looks of it. As this is Johnson, well, he looked like he was having a go at someone. Ryan Callan is off the track again. Ryan Callan, 8th position, facing the wrong way in the gravel. Now, he told me before this race started, the gravel is lethal. I think he's just found that out, and obviously he wanted his car to go on a diet because it shed its front wing, and that is Ryan Callan now back in 13th position. So what has started off as what looked like a possible podium has now ended in, well, 13th position at the moment, and he's got an awful lot of work to do if he wants to do that. That has allowed James Johnson, though, up into 10th, and that is him being attacked by Talbot, and James Johnson off the track again and down into 12th position. Through goes Lee Ross, through goes Talbot, and James Johnson getting a taste of his own medicine as he gets speared off the track there, and action going on up and down the field. Let's also just oh, hang on, maybe not, because it looks like we're going to have another little battle down the home straight before we switch to the battle for 2nd and 3rd position. Shaw crosses the line in 8th. Now with a little gap there, Vinari is 9, Talbot having a look in 10th position. He's a little bit too far back, but he might have a little nosy pose down into turn 2 if he's feeling brave. No, he is not. Vinari feeling the need to go defensive there. And Lee Ross being overtaken in the background there by James Johnson, so another good move there. But here's Taubate down the outside of Binari. That is a brave move, and Lee Ross trying to go around the outside of James Johnson as well. And Johnson there just runs him off the road. Lee Ross having to back out. Taubate and Binari side by side, and Binari, tank slapper for both by Binari. And that's allowed James Johnson straight onto the back of him with Lee Ross. The battle for second and third between Seaon and Buitenzorg has opened up, so we won't cut to that. We'll stick with this. But Binari, Johnson and Lee Ross now getting involved, and that is on the grass, Lee Ross. You're not going to overtake through that, my friend. And Binari and Johnson Johnson there. Oh, wow. Fantastic battle from these lot. This is why we love sim racing. As Lee Ross there giving a little bit of a nuzzle onto the rear of James Johnson, and Johnson won't be liking that one at all as they all cross the line. Just for a second, let me just swap back to the top just so that we remember who they are. Ben Crooks is still leading this race on lap 16 to 39. Pit stops will be coming up shortly, as I think Ryan Callan has gone off again somewhere. Where has Ryan Callan gone? Yes, he's down to 16th position and he's now a lap behind. Gregory de Grief is now 14th. Just to update you on his progress, he's passed Rich Tranter and Ryan Callan is now 14. But Ben Crooks currently leads. Mike Seaon is second, 1.8 seconds behind. The gap toing and froing depending on what they're doing with traffic at the time. But Ben Buitenzorg is the quickest of the three, and Mike Seaon there very sideways into turn 2. And that is going to allow Buitenzorg right onto the back of him if he's not careful, as Taubate is off the track and has dropped. Or as you know, Taubate is past Adam Shaw. Where did that happen? Maybe it's Adam Shaw that's gone off the track. And Taubate suddenly finds himself at 8. Shaw is now 9. Binari all over the back of him in 10. Binari going to have a look into turn 1. That is a brave man if you decide it. No, he thinks better of it. James Johnson smells an overtake going on. And fantastic. Oh, and Lee Ross there. Any more of that, he might as well just mount the rear of James Johnson as they continue on. And Lee Ross there, an opportunistic move and a little bit of bish bash bosh, but he takes 11th position. Binari and Shaw side by side ahead, and that's another bit of bish bash bosh going on, and Lee Ross might find himself and that's James Johnson taking perfect advantage there side by side, and Lee Ross there getting a bit of his own medicine there. He tried to rub off on the rear wing there of Binari, lost his own traction, and James Johnson goes yoink! And finally I can say it, James Johnson done a switcheroo and that's him up into 11th position. Binari now next on his list. James Johnson a little bit too eager there, and that will put him on his back foot down the straight, although Binari there a little bit ragged on the exit. Adam Shaw holding them all up. Taubate is getting away, and they've now got to all traverse Rich Tranter, who is about to be lapped by the lot of them. Just a quick rundown of the order while you watch this. Ben Crooks still currently leads now by 2.1 seconds. Ben Buitenzorg is still 8/10 of a second behind and making not the impression he wants on Seaon. He can't quite get close enough. As look at Tranter there desperately. He can see like a gaggle of cars behind him thinking, oh my God. But he should slow down, just let them all through. Shaw, Binari, Johnson, Ross, all together they've got 20 seconds almost over Martin Bolgin, who is about to be overtaken by Gregory de Grief. Adam Shaw and Yari Binari off the track, and that was, well, Adam Shaw there gets it all wrong. They had Piotr Bazchuk off the track, and maybe Shaw saw it and went to go and slide off. Binari innocently taken to the side of that, and Adam Shaw then spins off for good measure, nearly taken out by another car, and has dropped down to 12th position. Binari down to 11. Ross has now dropped off Johnson. Taubate is next on his list, and that's an unfortunate end to what has been a classic battle. Gregory de Grief is now in got Martin Bolgin all over the back of him. This is the battle for 13th and 14th, and this is important for Gregory de Grief. He needs to clear Martin Bolgin very quickly if he wants to continue his ascension up the order. We're on lap 20, and that's the way to do it. Martin Bolgin poops his pants and goes off onto the grass. Side by side action there. Gregory de Grief yoinks 13th position, that is now from Martin Bulgin, and every position is another point. He's got another 4 seconds before he catches up to Adam Shaw, so he's got some clear air now. Lap 20 of 39. What a fantastic race this has been. Ben Crooks currently leads by 2 seconds now by Mike Seaon. Ben Butendyk was right on his backside actually, but must have either tried a dive bomb move or made a slight mistake, because look at him, Butendyk, they're using all of the track and a little bit of shrubbery on the side for third position. They've now got 10 seconds over Gary Lennon, who is driving a very respectable, very quiet and very efficient race in fourth position. He's not gone a Nippon. He'll be a very happy man if he stays in fourth position at this rate. Hanu Carasola as well. Unusually a very quiet race for him. 20 seconds off the pace, but running fantastically well in fifth position. Kevin Clark will be delighted with sixth place. Another very silent assassin race. He has still got Ivo Simmons on his radar though. The two of them have been lapping about a second apart from each other from the word go, but have kind of kept almost identical lap times all the time. So that's going to be an interesting battle for pit stopping and things like that, if pit stops are going to take place today. Tony Talbot is currently 8. Lee Ross is currently 9. James Johnson has made another mistake and dropped back into 10th position and is now closing down Lee Ross. Yari Vinari is currently 11. Adam Shaw is currently 12. Gregory de Grief is reeling him in at the rate of knots in 13th position, and de Grief now a minute off the pace, so he's not quite, obviously he's got a very damaged car, but he's not quite keeping up with the leader's pace, so he needs to, I think actually they've made a slight mistake somewhere, so he needs to keep that going, because as soon as he goes one lap down he's going to really be struggling to kind of make the impression that he wants to, because he's going to have to be watching out for blue flags. One lap down currently in 14th is Martin Bulgin. 15 Ryan Callan, he's passed Rich Tranter for 15th position. Tranter is now down in 16. Then 2 laps down is Sylvan Meerlord, who is still running, and Piacek Blazchuk in not 20th position, 18th, and someone is going a bit awry. No, they're not. It's just Talbot who's got a lag problem. Our 3 retirements so far are Mark A. Wilmington, Dan Higgins and Michael Hart June. So just the 3 retirements. I really thought there'd be more. So fantastic action as Blazchuk goes 3 laps down as Ben Crooks pops the lap on. Blazchuk, they're so... Ooh. I don't know quite what was going on there. Oh, Blazchuk disconnects. He got onto the grass and then lost connection there. So Piacek Blazchuk was doing a sterling job there, trying to keep himself going, and has just disconnected from the race, and that is retirement number 4. So down to 17 drivers now, sorry, beg my pardon, slap my body. Still 3 drivers very much in the running for the race. Ben Crooks is certainly not getting away from Mike Seaon, who has got Ben Butendyk now just 4 tenths of a second behind, and Butendyk, giving Seaon a little nudge and saying, hello, I've been here for a while, and I don't like this third position. Well, third is good, but second is better. And I think Ben Butendyk has got some designs on taking it very shortly. Gregory de Grief has just overtaken Adam Shaw for 12th position, and Mike Seaon, I hope that was by computer, because that showed him on 2 wheels for a second, but he's okay now. But Butendyk is like stalking his prey, and Mike Seaon, I mean, he can afford to lose this position and not go out on a silly battle. I know Mike Seaon won't want that at all, but his main championship rival currently at the moment is Gregory de Grief. They're equal top on the standings with 89 points apiece. There's plenty of other drivers around, such as Ben Butendyk, although he didn't race last time out at Surfers Paradise. Ben Crooks is another man who's quite good as well, as Kevin Clark has gone off the track and dropped to 8th position. I didn't see quite what happened, but Talbot has just got round him. Oh yes, off the track he went. Naughty Kevin Clark. That's a shame. That's ruined. Well, not ruined, but it's affected what has been another class race by him, because Ivo Simmons now finds himself 6th, and Tauvate now finds himself in 7th. That's a good ascension up the order there by Tauvate, it has to be said. And that is Mike Seaon being severely held up by Rich Tranter, who gets punted off the road. And take that, Rich. And that has allowed Butendyk to get right alongside in the battle for 2nd and 3rd, side by side almost, over the flop into the final corner. And this is the best chance that Butendyk's had all race. He's taken a much tighter line into the corner to allow himself to be right onto the rear when they come out. They've got Adam Shaw right ahead of them, and I hope that he doesn't then go and start holding people up. Butendyk having a small little look to the left hand side, thinking better of it. Seaon's holding his racing line, he's got the confidence to do so. Butendyk straight into the offensive positions, sitting there waiting for the right opportunity. It's not going to be at this corner, he's slightly too far back. I think he might wait till see what Adam Shaw does, who they're going to lap. Shaw running a respectable 13th at the moment, after running as high as 8th earlier in the race. He's not a slow coach by any means, but it is so difficult to get round cars on this circuit. And Seaon there, well, that's an interesting drive, and poor little sponsorship board looking a little bit beaten and weary, as Ivo Simmons is off in the gravel, and he is now sitting in 10th position, is Ivo Simmons, and that is a shame, because he'd raised himself up into 6th, and that's put Tauvate into 6th, Clark to 7, Ross to 8, Johnson to 9, Minari to 10, Simmons to 11, and that has put him just ahead of Gregory de Grief, who fancies another position. De Grief currently running in 12th now. Back to the lead battle for 2nd and 3rd position. Seaon there looking a little bit ragged in the corner, as James Johnson, I think, has just overtaken Kevin Clark. Johnson's just overtaken Clark for 8th and 9th position. Is having a go at Lee Ross, but we'll stick with this battle for 2nd and 3rd position, because this is the most important. Seaon and Butendyk, and Butendyk there, that's an interesting way up the Konica corner, and whoops-a-daisy for him, that's dropped him back a little bit. So with that in mind, let's jump back to the battle between 7th and 8th position, Lee Ross and James Johnson. And James Johnson then taking an interesting line into turn 2, around the Coca-Cola, under the bridge, into drift shaft, and trying to go down the outside there. That's an interesting move, and he'll do well. Lee Ross there, hanging him out to dry and leaving him not enough room to keep that corner going. And Johnson thinking better of that time. Kevin Clark keeping a watching brief. Clark initially a lot faster and a lot further up the order than these, but made his own mistake and dropped behind them both, and is now hoping that these two will now take each other off, and that will end there. Will give Clark back 7th position. I'm quite sure Tauvate must think that his Christmases have come at once and suddenly in 6th. But let's have a nose at Johnson and Ross down into the final four. Adam Shaw has crashed out of the race from 13th position and has just retired on lap 26 of 39, so that's a shame for him. And Johnson not really having a nose at Lee Ross this time by. But Lee Ross there getting it completely wrong into turn 1. Johnson dive bombs through into 2. And that was a great move there by James Johnson, seeing that Lee Ross had made a driver error all by himself, obviously under pressure, and good night Vienna for him. So let's jump back to the battle for 2nd and 3rd position between Mike Seaon and Ben Butendyk. And Butendyk was half a second behind as they crossed over the line to start lap 28 of 39. And these two... Mike Seaon's off! Seaon is off, and Butendyk takes 2nd position. Seaon off on his own, obviously looking in his rear mirrors. People have said that turn 1 is an absolute yacht of a corner, and Mike Seaon proving it wrong there. And fantastic car control, not to just completely spin it out and into the barriers like we saw some other drivers do throughout the race. And that is a dreadful shame there by Seaon, but that has allowed Butendyk to move into 2nd. Seaon now down to 3rd. However, he's still got a decent points advantage and position advantage over Gregory de Grief anyway. However, Ben Crooks is the silent man. He's got 5 seconds now over Ben Butendyk, which is a good distance enough for now. I want to see if Potenzike fancies to try and get that gap down. I don't see Ben actually sitting there and saying, I'll settle for second. He's just not that kind of guy, and immediately yoinks a tenth of second off, but I don't think he's got enough time to go in. Let's do a rundown of the order then, just to say hello to everybody as we go through. Ben Crooks currently leads on lap 29 of 39, just 10 to go. No one is pitting either, so everyone obviously deciding to just tank it up and go for it. Ben Potenzike, second position. Mike Seaon after that mistake is third, and he's now 2 seconds behind Ben, and we'll see what he can do. 18 seconds off the pace, but in fourth position and doing a fantastic job is Gary Lennon. Hannu Carasola is a further 7 seconds back in fifth position. Has actually been on a bit of a charge actually, and has been closing down Gary, but not at quick enough pace, I don't think. Tony Talbotay is in sixth position in what has been actually one of the races of the race for him. James Johnson is now in seventh position. He has passed Lee Ross, who is now down to 8, but those two are not exactly too far apart from each other, and Johnson is basically dragging Ross along with him. Kevin Clark is now sitting in 9th position, and has lost the chance of 6 currently at the moment for a mistake. Jari Venari looking for a top 10 though, and he'll be delighted with that if that stays going on the same. Ivo Simmons had 6th position and threw it away with a mistake and a quick beach hut villa party in the gravel just a few laps previous. He's currently sitting in 11. Then 1 lap down is Gregory DeGrief. He's just been lapped there by Ben Crooks, but if he can just follow the pace and keep going round, Ivo Simmons is just a couple of seconds up the road, so 11th position could still be Gregory's quite easily. Martin Bolgin is currently sitting 13. Ryan Callan is right behind him in 14, and Bolgin's just gone off in 13, and Ryan Callan takes 13th position away from him. Candy from a little bubba. Ryan Callan there desperately trying a recovery drive after several mistakes, and Bolgin there off the road again, but that was more to let a lapsed driver through. Sylvian Milord 2 laps down in 15th position, and our last runner currently is our last runner is Rich Tranter, 4 laps down in 16th position. It's just not been his day, and but at least he's still going, and if he keeps on going there may well be points in the bag for him. Indeed. Simeon is unable to really bend into Ben Potenzike's gap, which has stayed. Well, it's actually stayed at 2 seconds, and Potenzike is falling away from Crooks, and Crooks has had to deal with traffic. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what happens. Best battle probably on track at the moment is going to be what happens to Ivo Simmons when he gets lapped by Ben Crooks, because Grief is right behind. And let's see what happens. Ivo Simmons currently running in 11th. That is Ben Crooks behind, who is about to lap him. Simmons there not being particularly jumpy out of the way. He's waiting for the main straight. Obviously quite cautious that the Grief is behind, and Simmons not exactly letting Crooks pass quite so quickly. That is a bit, well, that's not a bit more like it actually. I wonder if he thinks that he's actually in a battle for position. No, Simmons there running quite wide in that corner, and that's a good way of letting Crooks through without letting DeGrief catch up too close. So, but that is a battle that is still to be resolved. What else have we got going on track? James Johnson and Lee Ross are still relatively close. Oh, and Ryan Callan has crashed out. Oh no, fancy getting all that way to lap 30 or 39 and then binning it. So that is going to push Sylvian Nealod into 14th and Rich Tranter, providing they get round, into 15th. And that's a shame, as Ivo Simmons runs off in 11th position and Gregory DeGrief takes the place away. Gregory DeGrief will be absolutely kicking himself for that turn 1 discretion. And because he's had the pace for at least 4th. Aha! Well, I've been told by my little pit lane sleuth as Tony Talbot's just gone off the road in 6th position, but he's back going again now. Obviously tyre wear becoming an issue in these last 6 laps. Gregory de Grief and Evo Simmons are teammates, so maybe a little bit of Ferrari Austria 2002 tactics going on. But I shall leave that for you to decide. But thank you very much, my pit lane sleuth, for giving me the dibs on that one. So, coming around for the last few laps now, Ben Crooks has, well, we've barely seen much of him this race because everyone else has been busy battling each other, and Ben Crooks has just been managing the gap as it's gone. He's obviously been trying very hard because his lap times have there's kind of a second spread between them all, so he's obviously been trying very hard throughout the race. To try and make sure that he's constantly got a certain gap ahead of the person behind him. Butendyk is 5 seconds behind. Mike Seaon is now 9 seconds behind, so Seaon maybe now just settling for 3rd position. Butendyk is going quite heavy track at the moment as well. So with Evo Simmons and Gregory de Grief, so that gap is only going to increase. Gary Lennon is still being reeled in by Henry Carasola, who's just had a rough exit out of turn 2, but Carasola's had an awful exit out of turn 2. I think he's been playing Little Miss Gravel, and yes he has. Henry Carasola went off, but only just into the gravel and managed to get himself going. He's lost about 8 seconds, but he's still got another 8 seconds over Tony Talbot, so a lucky save there by Henry Carasola, currently running 5th position, and I'm sure he doesn't want to throw that away with just 5 coming up now for 4 laps to go. Talbot is 6, James Johnson is 7. He's now pulled away 4 seconds over Lee Ross, the battle for 7th and 8th. Kevin Clark's made another error somewhere because he's now a minute off the pace in 9th position. He's got 5 seconds over Jari Vinari for 10. So Clark can't afford to make any more mistakes if he wants to hold on to that 9th position. 1 lap down is Gregory de Grief, thinking, please, Kevin Clark, make another error. Evo Simmons is 12, Martin Bolgin is 13, also a lap down. 2 laps down is Sylvian Meerlord, and well done to Rich Tranter for being 4 laps down but still going and plodding round in 15th position. And well, just coming in for the closing couple of laps now. What a fantastic race it's been. Dominated by the first corner problems that would be sieged Gregory de Grief, our pole sitter, who looked like he had, was Martin Bolgin in 13th position, is just taking a quick trip across the gravel. He'll be quite happy to make it home this race after having a great battle at Surfers Paradise with his teammate and then disconnecting in the middle of it. So he'll be grateful for a finishy poos. But the race was really set. Well, the tone for it was set when Gregory de Grief ran off ride with James Johnson, the 2 guys on the front of the grid, in turn 1. That allowed Ben Crooks to leap forward into 3rd position as Gary Lennon, who'd had a great start, had to avoid them all. Crooks then took the lead, held it off from Mike Seaon. Butendyk eventually got into 3rd when Ryan Callan made a mistake and dropped down the order and subsequently has retired. That then left Butendyk to battle with Seaon for 2nd. Seaon then makes a mistake in that dreaded turn 1, running onto the curves, doing a 90-degree spin down to turn 2 in quite epic fashion, I have to say. Butendyk took 2nd, but has been unable to give any answers to Ben Crooks at all, who has led from turn 3 of lap 1 and just hasn't looked back since. Ben Crooks definitely contender for driver of the day, along with Tony Talbot for an excellent recovery drive up the order to grab 6th, and James Johnson for overtaker and switcheroo of the race. Collateral damage award I think goes to Ryan Callan for having more offs than everyone else, and hard charger award goes to Rich Tranter for gritting his teeth and soldiering on, and it's going to pay off because he's in points paying position obviously with 15th place. Doesn't matter how many laps down you are, if you finish and you grab a nice position like that, you shall be rewarded. So lap 37 now of 39, and Ben Crooks majestically continuing on round. Almost all the battles now are pretty much petered out. The only one potentially left, although Gregory de Grief isn't quite close enough, is he's reeling in Jari Vinari quite quickly, but just not quick enough to be able to do it, as Ben Crooks has started his final lap of the Grand Prix. So let's follow our race leader round on his last lap, because we've barely seen much of him all race. Now, if this is a drive that is going to pop you into contention for a championship, I think we better say hello and wave our hands to shake our hands at Ben Crooks and say welcome to the championship challenge, my friend, because this has been an absolute championship contending drive from Ben Crooks. Straight away kept his head when everyone else was going off, and has led from the front and looked very comfortable in doing so as well, as he puts a lap on Martin Bolgin. And here he comes round to the flip-flop. Bouncy curb 1, bouncy curb 2, into the final corner, round to across the line, and Ben Crooks is our winner here. He flashes his lights, he's a happy bunny. Ben Crooks wins at Oran Park for Race Department's V8 series, and that is a well-deserved, determined and fantastic win there by Ben Crooks, and he is waving his lights for everyone to see. Someone there is already in the wars. That was Kevin Clark, but he needs to get going if he actually wants to be going somewhere. Ben Betendijk finished his second, and he's a happy man doing 360s. Mike Seaon will be third place, and I think he'll have to say hats off to Ben Betendijk for putting him under enough pressure to make him make a mistake. Fourth place Gary Lennon, he'll be delighted with that as well. Fantastic result for him. Hank Carasola is in fifth position, and he won't be at all upset with that. Another good points haul from the regular contender for a top 6 position. Tony Talbot, he'll be delighted with that. 6th position from what looked like he'd ruined his start and it dropped down to about 16th, 17th. He crawled up to 6th, and he'd done it all his own way as well. James Johnson made life very difficult for himself by dropping down to 20th position by turn 2, and then overtook 7 drivers in 2 laps to grab a rather fantastic 7. Lee Ross, 8th position, and he was an opportunistic move today, grabbing all kinds of fun. Kevin Clark, 9th position, has just crossed the line now. Well done, Kevin. Finishing off in the last lap, but he'd managed to keep himself unlapped, so it didn't help himself, or didn't hinder himself rather. 1 lap down, 10th position, Jari Vinari held off Gregory de Grief for 11. And de Grief just saying, I'm the biggest noob of the year. Well, unfortunately, sometimes people just have one of those races. And if Gregory's got his out the way now, that should be good for the rest of the season. Ivo Simmons, 12th place, 1 lap down as well. 13th place and 2 laps down will be Martin Bolgin, so I think it'll be quite pleased with that. 3 laps down, Sylvian Meerlord in 13th position. And Rich Tranter 4 laps down, did not get lapped again, and he's still going around actually, so I wonder if he's actually noticed that he's finished the race in 15th place. He is our last finisher, and that is the end to round 3 of the V8 series. Well, I think it's round 3, third one I've commentated on anyway, of the V8 series. It's round 4, don't mind me. Thank you, pit lane sleuth camera extraordinaire, Jose Estrada. Our retirements today are Ryan Callan went out on lap 30 when he crashed quite heavily into the wall and ruined himself that. Adam Shaw had a suspension failure when he binned it as well on lap 26. Piotr Blazczek went out on lap 19 when he disconnected while being lapped by the leader, causing me to nearly poop my britches. Then Mark A. Wilmington said he wouldn't get lapped around lap 1, but he did and got as far as lap 12, and then decided to be his own fate and throw it off as well. Dan Higgins crashed out down at turn 1 while trying to hang on around the outside of somebody. And Michael Hart-Jones lasted only to lap 5 before he disconnected, which was a shame for him. And that was your 21 starters today. So we'll just see if anyone pops into the commentary booth for a quick commentator's thing. Jose, have you got any wise words of wisdom for us today?
Well, I think this championship really brings fantastic and close racing. It's really entertaining to broadcast, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, this track, I actually really enjoy this track. I think it's one of those tracks that doesn't get enough credit that it deserves.
Yeah, probably because maybe in real life it's not very, actual track with all the security measures and all that. So probably it's not very well known because that is a small club racetrack. But for sim racing, it's really interesting.
No, I completely agree. Just as a random trivia fact for the Oran Park circuit, the road that you have to drive to get to the circuit is called Peter Jackson Drive. So the people with the one car trying to get to the to throw their podium wreath and one bottle of champagne into the fires of championship. I give up trying to do Lord of the Rings analogies. That went wrong. La la la. So where are we at next, Jose? Do you know? Because I can't remember.
Well, I used to have that information in front of me, but as race department was down,
it got again. Woo! Let's have a little nosy pose. I now feel like I actually know what I'm doing vaguely. Okay, the schedule is... Where are we going to next? Pukeko Park. Interesting. That's a fun circuit, actually. I've raced around there very recently when BMW 1 was, and it was a blast, and there's plenty of room to overtake. So... Methinks that. Have you driven around Pukeko Park?
No, never tried it. But I don't know these tracks very well.
No,
really. As I never did the V8 supercars, and they used to be used only on that. I don't think I raced in one of these tracks before. Maybe from Phillip Island, but I know them, and I know them because my STC co-organizer and mate David Garcia is crazy for the Australian tracks. I don't know why.
Because they're all a little bit crazy
with Australian tracks.
We'll throw another shrimp on the barbie. Of course, we've got Phillip Island coming up after Pukeko Park. And of course, we end the season on the 14th of April in Bathurst. And that'll be a crash fest crackathon, I can assure you. So yes, Pukeko Park will be our next one. And that is on March the 17th, where I shall probably be slightly plastered. So tune in for that one because it's going to be a good one. I'll be celebrating... the eve before my birthday, and so come along, everyone bring a slice of cake and a beer, and we'll have a good blast between the lot of us, I think. Okay, what doesn't look like any drivers are going to be joining us today. They've obviously been too busy bathing themselves in either champagne or gravel, one or the other. So I think I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone for joining us today on PSR TV. This was round 4 of the V8 series at Oran Park, courtesy of Race Department. I'd like to thank Brian Callan for organising the league and for providing much of the off-track action in the gravel. Jose Estrada, cameraman extraordinaire and general lovable guy. My name is Simon Smith. Thank you very much for watching. Join us again soon. Take care.